First contact. The vast emptiness of space was pierced by a shimmering distortion as the Paramite research vessel Lumina emerged from faster-than-light travel. Captain Zarin's compound eyes widened as he beheld the blue-green orb of Earth hanging in the void before them. Magnificent, he chittered, antennae twitching with excitement. Sensors, report. Oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere. Captain. Abundant liquid water. Seasonal variations due to axial tilt. And most peculiar, a regular day-night cycle caused by planetary rotation. The science officer responded. Zarin's mandibles clicked in confusion. A rotating planet. How do the inhabitants cope with such chaos? As the Lumina established orbit, the crew marveled at the patchwork of lights visible on Earth's night side. The Paramites, evolved on a tidally locked world with eternal daylight on one hemisphere and permanent darkness on the other, found the concept of a planet that rotated fully every 24 hours utterly alien. Meanwhile, on Earth, astronomers at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico detected the alien vessel. Within hours, governments worldwide were scrambling to respond to humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life. UN Secretary General Amara Okoro stood before the hastily assembled General Assembly, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. My fellow citizens of Earth, we stand at the precipice of a new era. An alien vessel has entered orbit, and they appear to be peaceful. We must present a united front as we prepare for first contact. As dawn broke over New York City, a Paramite shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing in the pre-arranged location of Central Park. A mixed team of diplomats, scientists, and military personnel awaited them, all struggling to contain their nervousness and excitement. The shuttle's door raised open, and Captain Zarin emerged, blinking rapidly in the morning sunlight. His exoskeleton gleamed iridescently, and his forearms moved in complex patterns, a greeting in Paramite culture. Dr. Elena Chen, the lead xenobiologist, stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice amplified by translators. "We come in peace and friendship." Zarin's translator conveyed his response. "We thank you for your welcome, inhabitants of the rotating world. We come seeking knowledge and exchange." As the delegation moved to a nearby conference center, Zarin and his crew found themselves constantly distracted by the changing light levels and the bustle of New York City awakening around them. "How do you function with such constant change?" Zarin asked Dr. Chen as they walked. "The light, it shifts so rapidly." Elena smiled. "We've evolved with this cycle, Captain. Our bodies and cultures are adapted to the rhythm of day and night. It's as natural to us as your eternal day is to you." The Paramites were astonished to learn of human sleep cycles, the concept of jet lag, and the myriad ways Earth's cultures had developed around the day-night cycle. As the day progressed, the Paramites grew increasingly agitated. Dr. Chen noticed their discomfort. "Is everything all right, Captain?" Zarin's antennae drooped slightly. "Forgive us, Dr. Chen. We are unaccustomed to such prolonged changes in illumination. On our world, we have zones of eternal day, eternal night, and a narrow band of twilight between. This constant shift is unsettling." Understanding dawned on Elena. "Of course, we should have considered this. Let's adjourn to a room where we can control the lighting to make you more comfortable." As they moved to an interior conference room with adjustable lighting, tensions eased. The discussions ranged from scientific exchange to cultural understanding, but the Paramites couldn't help returning to their fascination with Earth's cycle. "Tell me," Zarin asked, "how do you coordinate globally with different parts of your world experiencing day and night simultaneously?" Secretary General Okoro explained the concept of time zones, further astounding the Paramites. As evening approached, Dr. Chen noticed the Paramites growing anxious again. "What troubles you, Captain?" Zarin's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of stress. "The light outside, it diminishes. How do your people cope with the coming darkness? Do they not fear?" Elena suppressed a chuckle, realizing the genuine concern in Zarin's voice. "Captain, night is a natural part of our cycle, Many of us find beauty and peace in the darkness. Perhaps we could show you." Despite their trepidation, the Paramites agreed. As the sun set over Manhattan, casting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, the Earth delegation led their visitors to the top of the rock observation deck. The Paramites huddled close together, their compound eyes darting nervously as darkness fell. But as the city lights came to life below them, and stars began to twinkle overhead, their fear gave way to wonder. "It's beautiful," Zarin whispered, his antennae quivering with emotion. Dr. Chen smiled. "This is our world, Captain. Light and dark, in eternal dance. We've learned to find beauty and purpose in both." As the first day of first contact drew to a close, both humans and Paramites realized they had much to learn from each other. The Paramites' fear of darkness and change contrasted sharply with humanity's adaptability, while their advanced technology and unique perspective promised new insights for Earth. Secretary General Okoro addressed the world once more that evening. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history. Our new friends from the stars remind us of the incredible diversity life can take in this universe. We have much to teach them, and even more to learn. Together, we step into a brighter future, one that embraces both the light and the dark." As the Paramites returned to their ship that night, Zarin gazed down at the ever-changing face of Earth. He realized that this mission would challenge everything his people thought they knew about life in the universe. The future promised to be as turbulent and exciting as this rotating world itself, full of darkness and light, forever in motion, endlessly surprising. The exchange program. 6 months after first contact, the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program was launched. A team of human scientists, diplomats, and cultural experts prepared to journey to the Paramite homeworld, Eternus. Meanwhile, a group of Paramite researchers arrived on Earth to study human society and adaptability. Dr. Elena Chen stood at the base of the sleek Paramite shuttle, her heart racing with excitement. She turned to her team, climatologist Dr. Yuki Tanaka, anthropologist Dr. Kwame Ose, and linguist Dr. Sofia Martinez. "Remember," Elena said, "Eternus is tightly locked. We're heading to the habitable twilight zone between eternal day and night. It'll be a challenge, but we're making history." As they boarded, Captain Zarin greeted them. "Welcome, friends. Are you prepared for your journey to our eternal twilight?" The shuttle lifted off, and within hours, they were aboard the Lumina. The humans marveled at the advanced technology as the ship engaged its FTL drive. In what felt like mere moments, they were approaching Eternus. The planet hung before them, a stark divide between blazing light and absolute darkness, with a thin, shimmering band of twilight between. "Remarkable," breathed Yuki, already taking readings. "The atmospheric dynamics must be incredibly complex." As they descended to New Horizon, the largest city in the Twilight Zone, the humans were struck by the alien beauty. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly, complementing the diffused light. Structures seemed to flow organically from the landscape, their iridescent surfaces constantly shifting colors. Stepping onto Eternus, the humans immediately felt the increased gravity. Elena stumbled slightly, and Zarin steadied her with one of his 4 arms. "Careful, Dr. Chen. It will take time to acclimate. Now, let me show you to your quarters." The human team spent the next few weeks in a whirlwind of new experiences. They marveled at Paramite technology, struggled with the heavier gravity, and worked to understand the complex social structures of a species that never slept. One day, as Elena was studying Paramite biology in a laboratory, alarms suddenly blared. The lights flickered, and she heard panicked chittering in the halls. Zarin burst in, his exoskeleton flushed with stress colors. "Dr. Chen, quickly. There's been a malfunction in the atmospheric stabilizers. We're experiencing unexpected darkness." Elena rushed to follow him, shocked by the chaos erupting around them. Paramites were running in all directions, some frozen in terror. As they reached the central plaza, Elena gasped. A shadow was creeping across the usually unchanging sky. "What's happening?" she asked, struggling to be heard over the panic. Zorin's antennae quivered. "Our stabilizers maintain the twilight conditions. Without them, we're exposed to the natural day-night cycle caused by our moon's shadow. Our people, we're not prepared for this." Elena's mind raced. This was a crisis, but also an opportunity. "Zorin, let me help. We humans deal with this every day. We can teach you how to cope." Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Paramite research team was facing challenges of their own. Lead researcher Vexna stood before a classroom of elementary school children in Tokyo, her translator conveying her words as she gestured with her 4 arms. "And so, young ones, on our world, we do not have night as you do. Our cities exist in eternal twilight." A young girl raised her hand. "But Ms. Vexna, don't you get tired? When do you sleep?" Vexna's compound eyes blinked in confusion. "Sleep? We do not sleep as you do. We simply rest when needed." The children erupted in a chorus of questions, and Vexna found herself overwhelmed. How could she explain a lifetime of constant alertness to these beings who spend a third of their lives unconscious? Later, as she walked through the bustling streets of Tokyo with her human liaison, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, Vexna marveled at the city's transformation as night fell. "It's as though your world becomes an entirely different place," she chittered softly. "How do you manage such constant change?" Hiroshi smiled. "It's all part of our rhythm, Vexna. The ebb and flow of light and dark shape our lives in ways we often take for granted. Come, let me show you something." He led her to a small park where a group had gathered for Hanami, the cherry blossom viewing. Lanterns glowed softly, illuminating the delicate pink petals against the night sky. "You see," Hiroshi explained, "we find beauty in the interplay of light and shadow. The transience of these blossoms, blooming briefly in spring, reminds us to appreciate the ever-changing nature of life." Vexna's antennae quivered with emotion. "It's beautiful," she admitted. Perhaps there is value in change that we Paramites have never considered." As the exchange program progressed, both species found themselves reevaluating long-held assumptions. Humans on Eternus adapted to the constant twilight and higher gravity, developing new technologies to help them function without a day-night cycle. They introduced the Paramites to concepts like meditation and polyphasic sleep to help them cope with periods of darkness. On Earth, the Paramites slowly acclimated to the planet's rhythm. They were introduced to human art, music, and literature, much of which drew inspiration from the cyclical nature of day and night. They marveled at human adaptability and began to see how change could breed innovation and resilience. Vexna found herself particularly drawn to human music. The concept of harmony, different notes coming together to create something greater, resonated deeply with her. She began to see parallels in the way humans had built a global civilization out of diverse cultures, much like a symphony drawn from different instruments. As the exchange program neared its conclusion, both teams prepared reports on their findings. The humans had gleaned invaluable insights into Paramite technology and social structures, while the Paramites had gained a new appreciation for adaptability and the potential benefits of cyclical change. Dr. Elena Chen stood once more in the central plaza of New Horizon, this time watching in awe as Paramites calmly went about their business during a scheduled night period, a radical new addition to their society inspired by Earth's cycles. Captain Zorin approached her, his exoskeleton shimmering with calm colors. "Dr. Chen, I must thank you and your team. Your presence during our crisis showed us a new way forward. We had always feared change, but now we see it can bring growth." Elena smiled. "And we've learned so much from you, Zorin. Your technology, your perspective. It's opened up new avenues of research we'd never considered. I believe this exchange marks the beginning of a profound friendship between our peoples." As they looked up at the artificially darkened sky, now dotted with unfamiliar constellations, both human and Paramite felt a sense of hope. In coming together, in embracing their differences, They had taken the first steps towards a brighter future for both their worlds. Crisis on Param. The tranquility of Param's eternal twilight was shattered by a piercing alarm that echoed across the planet's habitable band. In the central control hub of New Horizon, Paramite technicians scrambled frantically, their exoskeletons flashing distress colors. Chief Engineer Clix Vaughn's antennae twitched erratically as she assessed the situation. "Report," she demanded, her translator barely keeping up with her agitated clicks and chirps. A junior technician responded, mandibles quivering. "The primary atmospheric stabilizers are failing, Chief. We're losing control of the Twilight Band." Clix Vaughn's compound eyes widened in horror. The stabilizers were Param's lifeline, maintaining the delicate balance of light and temperature that allowed life to flourish in the narrow habitable zone between the planet's scorching day side and freezing night side. "Alert the Council immediately," she ordered, "and send a distress call to Earth. We need help." As the crisis unfolded, panic spread across Param. The carefully maintained twilight began to shift, plunging regions into unexpected darkness or subjecting them to harsh, unfamiliar light. Paramite society, built on the bedrock of unchanging conditions, began to crumble. On Earth, the distress call was received with grave concern. In an emergency session of the United Nations, Secretary General Amara Okoro addressed the Assembly. "Distinguished representatives, our Paramite allies face an unprecedented crisis. Their environmental control systems are failing, threatening millions of lives. I propose we immediately dispatch our best scientists and engineers to assist them." The motion passed unanimously. Within hours, a task force was assembled, led by Dr. Elena Chen, who had only recently returned from the exchange program on Param. As the Earth ship approached Param, Elena gasped at the sight. The once sharp divide between light and dark had become blurred and chaotic. Storms raged where calm once reigned, and the twilight band flickered like a faulty light bulb. Upon landing, the Earth team was met by a visibly distressed Captain Zarin. "Dr. Chen, thank the eternal light you're here. Half our cities are in darkness, and the other half are experiencing day for the first time in our history. Our people are. We're not coping well." Elena nodded grimly. "We'll do everything we can, Zarin. Take us to the control hub." As they traveled through the city, Elena was struck by the scenes of chaos. Paramites huddled in groups, their exoskeletons pulsing with fear colors. Others ran aimlessly, seemingly unable to process the changing light conditions. The usually efficient and orderly society was in complete disarray. In the control hub, Clix Vaughn greeted them with a mixture of relief and desperation. "The stabilizer network is cascading into failure," she explained. "We've lost 60% of our control, and it's getting worse by the hour." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the climatologist, studied the readouts. "The atmospheric dynamics are incredibly complex," she mused. "Your stabilizers don't just control light. They're maintaining a delicate balance of temperature and pressure across the planet." Elena turned to Zarin. "Captain, we need to buy time. Can you implement any of the day-night adaptation strategies we developed during the exchange program?" Zarin's antennae drooped. "We've tried, Dr. Chen. But our people, change at this scale, it's overwhelming them. We're seeing widespread panic, even cases of psychological breakdown." Elena's face set with determination. "Then we need to tackle this on two fronts. Dr. Tanaka, work with Clix Vaughn on stabilizing the atmosphere. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Osai, you're with me. We need to help the Paramites cope with these changes." As the engineers and scientists battled to regain control of Param's environment, Elena and her team worked tirelessly to help the Paramite population adapt. They set up emergency shelters with controlled lighting, introduced concepts of meditation and relaxation techniques, and worked with Paramite psychologists to develop coping strategies. Days turned into weeks as the crisis dragged on. Slowly, painfully, the Paramites began to adapt. They learned to find comfort in darkness, to appreciate the beauty of a sunrise, to understand the rhythm of a day-night cycle. In the control hub, progress was equally slow but steady. Dr. Tanaka and Clixvon had made a breakthrough, realizing that they couldn't simply replicate the old system. "We need to introduce flexibility," Yuki explained, "a dynamic system that can adapt to changes rather than trying to maintain a rigid status quo." Clixvon's exoskeleton rippled with uncertainty, "But our entire civilization is built on consistency on the eternal twilight." Yuki smiled gently. "And yet, look how your people are adapting. Perhaps it's time for your technology to adapt as well." As they worked to implement the new system, reports came in from across the planet. Paramites were emerging from their fear, showing remarkable resilience. In one city, a group had organized a darkness appreciation event, using bioluminescent plants to create beautiful light displays in the newly dark zones. A month into the crisis, Alina stood with Zorin on a balcony overlooking New Horizon. For the first time in Paramite history, they watched a sunrise together. "It's breathtaking," Zorin whispered, his eyes adjusting to the new light. "I never imagined our world could contain such beauty." Alina nodded. "Change can be terrifying, but it can also reveal wonders we never knew existed." Just then, Clixvon's voice came over the communicator. "We've done it. The new dynamic stabilization system is online. We have control again." Cheers erupted across the city, but as Zorin moved to return to the control hub, Alina caught his arm. "Wait," she said. "What are you going to do now? Go back to the eternal twilight?" Zorin paused, his compound eyes reflecting the rising sun. "No," he said slowly. "No, I don't think we can. Or should. We've learned too much, grown too much." In the following days, the Paramite Council convened to chart a path forward. After much debate, they made a historic decision. Paran would adopt a day-night cycle, mirroring Earth's 24-hour rotation. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Many Paramites were eager to embrace this new way of life, while others feared the change. But as the new system was implemented, something remarkable happened. Paramite society, forced to adapt to crisis, found itself more robust, more innovative, and more united than ever before. As the Earth team prepared to return home, Alina had one last conversation with Zorin. "You've given us more than just technical aid, Dr. Chen," Zorin said, his exoskeleton shimmering with gratitude. "You've shown us a new way to exist, to grow." Alina smiled. "And you've shown us the incredible capacity for adaptation that life holds. Our worlds may be different, but together, we're stronger." As their ship lifted off, Alina watched Param recede, its surface now a dynamic swirl of light and shadow. The crisis had been devastating, but from it, a new era of Paramite civilization had dawned, one that embraced change and found strength in adaptation. The bond between Earth and Param, forged in crisis, promised a brighter future for both worlds. Lessons in adaptation. 1 year after the Great Twilight Crisis, as it came to be known on Param, Dr. Alina Chen found herself once again stepping onto the alien world. This time, however, she wasn't arriving to a planet in chaos, but to one undergoing a remarkable transformation. As she exited the shuttle, Alina was struck by the changes. The city of New Horizon, once a study in monotonous twilight, now pulsed with life and variety. Paramites moved about with purpose, their exoskeletons shimmering with a range of colors Alina had never seen before. Captain Zorin greeted her, his antenna twitching in what Alina now recognized as excitement. "Dr. Chen, welcome back to Param, or should I say, welcome to New Param." Alina smiled, taking in the sight of Paramites going about their day under the light of their sun. "It's incredible, Zorin. I hardly recognize the place." "Come," Zorin said, gesturing with 2 of his 4 arms. "There's so much to show you." As they toured the city, Alina was amazed by the innovations the Paramites had developed in just 1 year. Buildings now featured adaptive shielding that adjusted to the changing light levels. Parks were filled with a mixture of shade-loving and sun-seeking plants, creating a dynamic ecosystem that shifted throughout the day. "We've embraced the cycle," Zarin explained. "Our scientists have made remarkable breakthroughs in chronobiology. We've discovered that many of our native species actually thrive under cyclical conditions. We just never gave them the chance before." They passed a group of young paramites engaged in what looked like a game, their exoskeletons flashing in complex patterns. "What are they doing?" Elena asked. Zarin's eyes crinkled in what Elena now knew was a smile. "It's a new game, inspired by your human concept of shadow puppets. They're using the changing light to create stories. We're calling it light weaving." As they continued their tour, Elena noticed something else. Paramites of different ages moving about together. "Zarin," she said, "I don't recall seeing such a mix of generations before." Zarin nodded. "Ah, yes. One of the most profound changes has been to our social structure. In the eternal twilight, we had little concept of childhood or aging. Now, with the cycle, we're experiencing life stages in a new way. It's refreshing." They arrived at a large, dome-shaped building that Elena didn't recognize. "What's this?" she asked. "This," Zarin said with pride, "is our new adaptation center. Come inside." The interior was a marvel of paramite engineering. One section simulated the harsh light of Param's day side, another the deep darkness of the night side. Paramites moved between these areas, clearly training themselves to function in extreme conditions. "We realized that our fear of change had made us vulnerable," Zarin explained. "Now, we're training our people to adapt to any condition. We've even started an exploration program to the day and night sides of our world." Elena was impressed. "You've taken the concept of adaptation further than I ever imagined." Zarin's antennae twitched in agreement. "We had to. The crisis showed us that clinging to the status quo was a weakness. Now, we see change as an opportunity for growth." As they exited the adaptation center, Elena noticed a group of paramites setting up what looked like telescopes. "What's going on there?" she asked. "Ah," Zarin said, his exoskeleton flushing with excitement colors. "That's for tonight's celestial event. For the first time in our recorded history, we're going to observe the stars." Elena was stunned. "You've never seen the stars before?" "Never," Zarin confirmed. "Our eternal twilight masked them. But now, with our new cycle, we have true night. Our astronomers are ecstatic, to use a human term." As night fell on Param for the first time in Elena's visit, she joined Zarin and a group of paramite scientists at the observation point. The excitement was palpable as darkness descended and the sky filled with stars. The paramites fell silent, their compound eyes reflecting the starlight. Elena heard soft clicks and chirps of awe and wonder. She realized she was witnessing a profound moment in paramite history, their first glimpse of the wider universe. One of the scientists turned to Elena, his voice filled with emotion. "Dr. Chen, we never knew. All this time, this beauty was hidden from us by our own fear of the dark." Elena smiled, feeling a lump in her throat. "Sometimes, the most wonderful discoveries lie just beyond our comfort zone." The next day, Elena met with the Paramite Council to discuss the ongoing cultural exchange program. The council chamber, once a study in stern efficiency, now featured large windows that allowed natural light to stream in. Head Counselor Vextral greeted Elena warmly. "Dr. Chen, on behalf of all Param, I want to express our deepest gratitude. Your people's help during our crisis, and the lessons you've taught us about adaptation, have transformed our world." Elena nodded humbly. "We're honored to have helped. But the real change came from within your own people. You've taken the concept of adaptation and elevated it to an art form." Vextral's antenna waved in agreement. "Indeed, and we believe it's time to share what we've learned. We'd like to propose an expansion of the exchange program." The council proceeded to outline a plan for paramite adaptation experts to visit Earth and other worlds, sharing their newfound knowledge. In return, they wanted to learn more about how other species handled change and variability in their environments. As the meeting concluded, Alina felt a sense of awe at how far the Paramites had come. From a society paralyzed by the fear of change, they had transformed into one that embraced it, that sought to understand and adapt to new conditions. On her last evening on Param, Alina stood with Zorin on the same balcony where they had watched their first sunrise together a year ago. This time, they were watching it set. "You know, Zorin," Alina said, "when we first met, I never imagined we'd be standing here, watching a sunset on Param." Zorin's exoskeleton shimmered with contentment colors. "Nor did I, my friend. But now, I can't imagine our world any other way." As the sun dipped below the horizon and stars began to appear, Alina reflected on the incredible journey both their species had undertaken. The Paramites had learned to embrace change, while humanity had been reminded of the wonder of their own world cycles. In coming together, in helping each other adapt and grow, they had forged a bond that promised to change the course of both their civilizations. As darkness fell on Param, Alina knew that a new light of understanding and cooperation was dawning between their worlds. A new understanding. 5 years had passed since the Great Twilight Crisis on Param, and the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program had flourished beyond anyone's wildest expectations. On a warm summer evening in New York City, Dr. Alina Chen stood before a packed auditorium at the United Nations headquarters, preparing to deliver a keynote address at the first Galactic Symposium on Adaptive Civilizations. As she looked out at the diverse audience, humans, Paramites, and representatives from a dozen other species that had since joined the galactic community, Alina felt a surge of pride and hope. "Distinguished delegates, honored guests," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "5 years ago, we witnessed a crisis that could have torn two worlds apart. Instead, it brought us together in ways we never imagined possible." Alina went on to outline the remarkable progress that had been made. The expanded exchange program had led to breakthroughs in numerous fields. Paramite adaptation techniques had revolutionized human approaches to climate change and space exploration. In return, human creativity and innovation had sparked a cultural renaissance on Param. But perhaps the most profound change, Alina continued, has been in how we view ourselves and our place in the universe. We've learned that true strength lies not in rigid stability, but in our ability to adapt, to embrace change, and to find opportunity in adversity. As Alina concluded her speech to thunderous applause, she caught the eye of Captain Zorin, now Ambassador Zorin, sitting in the front row. His exoskeleton shimmered with colors of pride and friendship. After the symposium, Alina and Zorin took a walk through Central Park, marveling at how comfortable the Paramite had become in Earth's ever-changing environment. "You know, Alina," Zorin said, using her first name as he learned humans often do with friends, "when I first came to Earth, this constant cycle of light and dark terrified me. Now, I find it invigorating." Alina smiled. "And I never thought I'd say this, but I actually miss the unique beauty of Param's twilight when I'm away too long." They paused by a small pond, watching as the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. Zorin's compound eyes reflected the spectacular view. "We're planning something big back on Param," he said, his antennae twitching with excitement. "We're calling it the Twilight Restoration Project." Alina looked at him, intrigued. "Oh, are you thinking of going back to the old way?" Zorin's mandibles clicked in what Alina now recognized as laughter. No, we've come too far for that. But we've realized that our Twilight Zone was unique in the galaxy. We're going to create a vast nature preserve in that band, protecting the species that evolved in those conditions while still maintaining our new day-night cycle in our cities." "That's wonderful, Zorin," Alina exclaimed. "A perfect blend of preserving your heritage while embracing your new path." As they continued their walk, the conversation turned to the future. The success of the human-Paramite cooperation had opened doors throughout the galaxy. New alien species were making contact regularly, drawn by the story of two vastly different civilizations coming together and thriving. We're entering a new era of galactic cooperation, Zarin mused. And to think, it all started because we were afraid of the dark. Elena chuckled. And we thought you were strange for living in eternal twilight. I guess we all had a lot to learn. As night fell and the park's lights came on, Elena and Zarin found themselves by the Bethesda fountain. The play of light and shadow on the water reminded them both of the ever-shifting patterns they'd seen during Param's crisis. You know, Elena said thoughtfully, I've been thinking about writing a book about our experiences. Not just a scientific account, but a story about two species learning to see through each other's eyes. Zarin's antennae perked up. That's a wonderful idea. Our historians have been working on something similar. Perhaps we could collaborate, create something that captures both perspectives. Elena's eyes lit up. A joint human paramite project. I love it. We could include accounts from both worlds, showing how each of us saw the other at first, and how those perceptions changed over time. As they brainstormed ideas for their book, a small crowd of humans and aliens gathered nearby, watching the unusual sight of a human and a paramite engrossed in animated conversation. A young child tugged on her mother's sleeve, pointing at Zarin. Mommy, look at the big bug man. Isn't he scary? Before the embarrassed mother could shush her child, Zarin turned and addressed the little girl directly, his translator conveying his warm tone. Hello, little one. I may look different, but I assure you, I'm not scary. Would you like to learn a game from my world? The girl nodded shyly, and soon Zarin was teaching a small group of children the art of light weaving, using the park's lampposts to cast elaborate shadow stories on the ground. Elena watched the scene with a warm heart, remembering how far they'd all come. From first contact to crisis to true friendship, the journey had been extraordinary. As the impromptu light-weaving lesson concluded, Elena and Zarin bid farewell to the delighted children and their parents. They made their way out of the park, continuing to discuss their book project. You know, Zarin, Elena said as they walked, when we first met, I never imagined we'd end up here, planning a book together, teaching Earth children paramite games, discussing galactic cooperation. Zarin's exoskeleton shimmered with agreement colors. Indeed, our peoples have come so far, learned so much from each other. We've proven that diversity isn't just about tolerance, it's about growth, about becoming more than we were by embracing our differences. As they reached the street, they paused, looking up at the night sky. Even through New York's light pollution, a few stars were visible, stars that now held new meaning for both their species. To think, Elena mused, your people had never seen the stars, and mine had dreamed of reaching them for millennia. Now here we are, exploring the galaxy together. Zarin's antennae twitched in agreement. The universe is vast and full of wonders, Elena. But I believe the greatest wonder of all is the capacity for different beings to come together, to learn from each other, to grow together. As they parted ways for the evening, Zarin to the Paramite embassy and Elena to her apartment, both felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey they'd shared and excitement for the future they were building together. The story of humanity and the Paramites had started with fear and misunderstanding. But through crisis and cooperation, they had forged a bond that now served as a beacon of hope throughout the galaxy. As both their worlds continued to change and grow, they did so together, stronger for their differences, united in their shared journey of discovery and adaptation. In the vast, ever-changing canvas of the cosmos, they had learned perhaps the greatest lesson of all, that in embracing change, in cherishing diversity, lay the truest path to the stars.